This is John, and today I'm going to be doing a music production analysis of Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. And I've got my studio here, so you'll be able to hear the instruments through the camera, one by one. A lot of cool stuff in here. So this song was actually voted on the Rolling Stone magazine 500 Great Songs of All Time list as number 3, I think. Maybe number 2. Number 2 or 3, I forget which one it is. But it's very high up, top 10 on their list. And it's a very cool song. There's a lot of cool music production tricks that have been used in this that we can analyze and see how we can use it ourselves and how we can use these underlying principles ourselves. Obviously, it's never good to copy exactly, but if you can grab the underlying skill set that the people have used, then you can use it in your own tracks in your own way, which is the biggest benefit you get from music production analysis. Now, before I go on, spots have opened for the Polymath Producer system. Okay, I've got people in there telling me that they are learning more in 4 weeks than like years prior. People are starting to think like a master within 3 weeks. So they're actually starting to intuitively think like the people they are analyzing. So if you want to learn how to do that, I'll leave a link below for polymathproducer.com. But let's get on with this. So we're going to find out what's going on in this, pun intended. And I'm going to take you through each instrument one by one and then see how they relate to each other. So let's start with the first one here. So we just got some finger snaps. It literally sounds like they've just finger snapped into a mic. Very, very live sounding. Couple of BB tracks, so I'll go through the first BB track here. So this particular vocal pad, so this is a vocal pad and it's based off of 2 notes. Now when I first started producing, I was listening to a lot of Beatles, and I was like, everything has to be 3-part harmony. Like when you do vocal pads, you have to have 3-part harmony, and that's simply not the case. So Marvin Gaye here, 2-part harmony on his vocal pads for this particular BV section, and he even does a single line vocal pad earlier on in the song, which we'll get to soon, which is quite phenomenal how well it works when you do it properly. And I'll show you how to do it properly very soon. But firstly, what you want to keep in mind is that there's multiple singers singing this. So he's got both males and females, and multiple males, multiple females. So the benefit of doing this is that it creates more texture to the vocal lines. Have a listen. So all they're singing here is G sharp, D sharp together, and then the girls go up to an E. That's what they're singing. And then at the very end, the girls go up to a G sharp, just temporarily. So a very simple line. And what they're singing with in the lead is sort of the interlude section. Everybody thinks we're wrong. Oh, but who are they to judge us? So kind of just creating that pad, that glue feel, and it actually is doubling with the strings, which are playing sustained stuff as well. The strings are obviously doing their own thing with the melodies, but it's still sort of sustained, and then you've got the sustained backing vocals lower in the arrangement. But we'll get to the strings soon. We'll see how it all interconnects very soon. Now these continue for the majority of the song, and again it's mainly 2-part harmony. So in this particular section there's a lot of harmony changes. And you've got a single sustained note that both males and females are singing, and then they're changing with the harmony. So I'll play the piano underneath. Very complex harmony changes here, and they're singing a single note following that harmony. So the cool thing about it is that they're going between G, G sharp, G, G sharp. Like there's a lot of accidentals that are happening in the arrangement harmony. So the main takeaway that you want to take away from these particular BVs is that they're mostly two-part harmony, mostly sustained vocal pads, and pads really act as a glue in arrangement. So I'll get to the rhythm soon, but usually you have a core rhythm, which is like the main driving groove of the song. Then you have counter rhythms, which create healthy conflict with that core rhythm. And pads, a lot of the time, act as a glue to connect those two together and sort of fill out the arrangement. So that's essentially what these are doing in this. You can get away with two-part harmony. You don't have to use three-part harmony for your pads, for your vocal pads. And using a mix of male and female helps to create more texture, and also multiple singers of male and female. So multiple singers creates more of a thicker texture as well. So some of these tips have been lost through generations because now you can do everything from your studio. If you just use your own voice, sometimes it doesn't sound as good as if you can get multiple voices. So let's go on to the next BVs, and these are more pack vocals, which you'll see soon. So So as you can see, it's a single note, sustained vocal pad, and there's a pack of males singing it. Most likely Marvin's part of that. So if you can see with the lead vocal, this is what it's singing under. So this is the first verse. See how it's creating that glue? It just creates that that connection between the rhythms. So if we took the backing vocals out, this is what it would sound like. See how it's just the rhythm and it's not, something just doesn't feel right. Whereas when you put the backing vocals in, it connects the two together. Magic. So very cool stuff. And all that is a single vocal line, just a single line. There's no two-part harmony, three-part harmony, single line, multiple vocals, like pack vocal on the one line. Now, in the pre-chorus, you have call and response pack vocals, which is pretty cool stuff. So have a listen to this. Single note, sister, sister, sister. One word, sister, one note, sister. And they move to another word. Sister, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And with the lead vocal, this is what it sounds like. So it's call and response.
And pick its size, sister. Don't punish me, sister, with brutality, sister.
So call and response, lead vocal singing a phrase, backing vocals a response to that call. So call response. It's one of the principles of music production and arranging is like call and response. How are elements interacting with each other? One's calling, one's responding. As this one calls, there will be a space in between that call and the next call. So if I take out the backing vocals, have a listen to this.
Picket lines and picket signs.
See, there's just a space.
Don't punish me with brutality.
Still sounds good.
Talk to me.
But then you put these in.
So you can see, sister, what's going on? What's going on?
Just changes the whole thing. keep in mind call and response between the lead vocals and the background vocals. How can you play with that? If you've got space in between phrases of vocals, are you gonna fill it out with instrumental elements or more background vocal elements?
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on?
And again, group vocals, so multiple people singing this word and these lines, which makes all the difference. More thicker texture, everything. Now this is pretty cool coming up here. Have a listen to this background vocal line.
What's up, man? This is a big party, man. I can dig it.
Right on.
Hey, man, what's your name?
Sweet Dennis. My man.
Everything is everything. We're gonna do the get down today, boy. I tell you.
Let's do it all, baby.
It's just like literally sounds like a party, and they're just like saying like random words, and yeah, it's I think it's just funny how like that's there, and then like it actually works so well underneath. Like have a listen to the, you can't even notice this, but it just fills out the space. They actually made this party scene like a mock party scene. So they just got a whole bunch of people in and pretended like they were partying, and then recorded the thing, and got people to say like random lines and stuff like that. So it's really cool. Now the lead vocal, this is very cool. They've intertwined two vocal leads.
Brother, 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 there's far too many of you down to bring some light in here today. Yeah, Father, Father.
Apparently what happened was that he sung two different lead vocal lines, and then they decided to actually leave both vocal lines together in the song. And it actually sounded really cool, like how they interact with each other. So in modern day, most people are like, oh, you need to do a single vocal line, and that's it. And that's cool, but this is actually a possibility as well. If this sounds good for the song at hand, you can do this. Let's move on to the sax. So the sax plays a motive in the track. So that is the opening line of the song. This motive that plays is a secondary hook in the track. So I'd say the lead hook of the track is probably the what's going on, like what's going on, that one. The sax plays the secondary hook of the song. So it plays that motive, and then this is really cheeky. So this is the repurposing principle in effect right here. Have a listen to the piano line and tell me if this sounds familiar. Now have a listen to the sax. They're playing the same thing. Let me get my piano out. And then the piano is literally playing that as well. So what they're doing there is they're repurposing hooks. So you have a sax playing the secondary hook, and then the piano plays the hook an octave lower throughout the entire track. So it literally repeats this through the verses. Can you hear it? Very cool stuff. And just there, the sax played a little bit of a fill. Just little cool colors that for the transition. So the first part of the verse is coming to a close here, if you can hear. Back to the turnaround. So back to start of the verse again. So it's an element that you can put in there to sort of show that this is the end of this section and we're going back to the start of it again. So they've used it not only as a secondary hook thing. So in the intro, it's really the lead, like that's the lead hook in the intro, but then it goes to more of an accompaniment instrument from that point onwards. And later on, you can actually see that the sax sustains notes with a motive, which actually doubles with the strings.
Let's do it all, baby.
So as you can see, the sax is actually doubling essentially what the strings are doing, or maybe it's a different note. Let me check. Now it's the same, so it's doubling the melody of the top strings, of what the strings are playing. So the strings are playing chords, but they've got a top melody. Sax is doubling that. Again, counter motive to what the vocal is doing. See the contrast there? The instruments are playing sustained, the vocal is more staccato, offbeat, doing its own thing. So there's that nice contrast there, contrast, key. Let's move to the vibraphone. So there's a vibraphone in here. So what I noticed about the vibraphone was that its main purpose was to really double the piano at certain points. So it accentuates the key beat of the first beat of the piano. So it accentuates those chords, but it also plays a little counter melody to what the piano is doing. So it's almost like this little world within itself. So in that one, it's accentuating chords, but in this part, in the verse, sort of it's doing this. It's doing something similar, but it's doing its own thing. Like it's doing its own notes, counter notes, counterpoint. In terms of the entire arrangement, the vibraphone is really there just to accentuate certain rhythms and notes, really. You can barely hear it. You wouldn't even know it was there. You can sort of hear it on the top there, octave higher. So yeah, it's really, I don't know, maybe filling out that high end, doing something a little bit counter, plus accentuating those key beats there. The piano, we've touched on this before. The cool thing about the piano is that it's playing the secondary hook, the sax established at the start, but throughout the entire track without you even knowing. This part here. Now the cool thing about this is that what you want to do as a producer, which they've done very well, which you can take from this principle, is that repurposing hooks that you already have in creative ways is like one of the coolest things you can do. The audience won't even know that you're doing it, but they'll just feel like the arrangement is awesome. So it's affecting them on a big level. Speaking of the Beatles, in the song She Loves You, the main hook in that song, like the "She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah," that hook, if you listen to the verses, the guitar actually plays that hook, the "yeah, yeah, yeah," in its top melody of its chords as a fill. So in between vocal phrases, it goes dling, 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 like that. So they've repurposed the primary hook and used it as a secondary hook in the verses, which is absolutely genius. And this is what they're doing right there. They're repurposing hooks so that it gets under your skin without you even knowing. And it's really one of the best ways to create arrangements. This dates back all the way to Beethoven. If you listen to Symphony Number 5, the opening notes, dun, 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 he created the entire first movement out of those notes. If you listen very carefully, you can see it getting repurposed in different ways, using different rhythms, different harmonies and melodies and stuff, but the same notes apply, and he's used them in different ways. The essence of that opening motive remains throughout the entire movement. Okay, go check that out. Very cool stuff. So this dates back to literally the Beethoven days. Like it's a timeless principle. That's why it is a principle of music production and arranging. Let's move on to the guitars, because the guitars in this track are what I like to call the core harmonic rhythmic driver. Okay, it's quite a mouthful, but if you listen to this guitar here. What it's playing is it's playing the primary rhythm of the song, so the core rhythm of the track, the groove of the track. And the reason why I know that is because if you listen to the bass with it, see how they're sort of flowing with each other. I'm not sure if the bass will come through the speakers that well, but it flows with it. Now listen to the kick. So that is the core rhythm of the track. So the core rhythm is the main groove. It's the kick, the snare, and the bass is like the easiest way to identify the core rhythm. And then there's usually a mid-level harmonic instrument that plays with that and flows with it. And this is present in every track that you'll ever hear. And if the bass and the drums aren't present in the track that you're listening to, there will usually be a core harmonic rhythmic driver that's taking the place of it. And then when the bass and the kick drum comes in, you'll hear it starts to flow as one. Every song ever imaginable has this. So that's its role. Its role is literally just to provide that groove. So when you hear more of the arrangement above it, it fades into the background essentially. Like it's there, but you don't really notice it. It's more of just a feel. That's guitar number one. So there's actually a second guitar that plays with it. So let's have a listen to what that does. So this is an acoustic guitar. The other one was electric. This is acoustic. I think. Pretty sure it's acoustic. And what it's doing is it's essentially accenting certain rhythmic parts of the core harmonic rhythmic driver. So it's going. So it's doing like almost like a counter rhythm, but it's accentuating bits of the core rhythm as well. So it's like a core rhythm highlighter, but it's sort of doing a little bit of a counter rhythm as well. And that's creating healthy conflict between the two guitar parts. Plus it's also quite like a little bit of an octave higher. So they've actually positioned the second guitar a little bit higher here. So the guitar's role in this track is mainly rhythm. Piano is taking the secondary hook that runs throughout. Sax creates more of the fills, vibraphone more of the vibe, pun intended. Backing vocals, pads, as we can see, it's coming all together now. Strings starting to come in as pads, plus motives, so melodic motives. let's stop it there for a second. We're getting carried away. Let's move to the bass. Very funky. I think the main lesson you can get from the bass is like, it's accentuating the core rhythm, but it's also doing a lot of fills, a lot of runs, a lot of cool funky stuff. A lot of the time you notice that that's lost in a lot of modern day tracks, especially more electronic music. So if you can actually bring that humanized feel to your arrangements, even if they're electronic, it can do wonders for your arrangement. So how can you accentuate the core rhythm, but at the same time create more of a humanized feel? So this is drum number 1. So this is the core rhythm. Kick, snare, some hi-hats. Then they've got another one here, which looks like it's accentuating on the beat number 1. Now, this is really cool. What I noticed in this track was that they have 2 separate kick drums. Have a listen to this. This kick drum underneath is on the 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's playing a straight beat on every beat. Now this one is like this. So this is kick, this is snare. That's it. So it's playing more of a syncopated kick drum, whereas the other one is on every beat, and they play together. Listen. I've actually used this in a track before. After I learnt this, I used this same principle. 2 different kick drums doing 2 different things at the same time. And it works really well. So I thought this was really cool. Like this is like I actually got that technique for my technique library from this track. Not really much else to say really about the percussion. I mean, they've got some percussion here that's doing some more counter rhythm stuff. It's like a conga or bongo, whatever that one is. I think it's a conga. Just creates that counter rhythm, that conflict, healthy conflict. So that's the rhythm section right there. Now let's get onto the strings. So this is the last instrument that I have to cover today, and the strings do some really cool stuff that you can learn. So to start with, they start with a single motive. So it essentially starts as a pad, but with some motives attached to it. Now I'm pretty sure that's playing octave space. So you've got one octave higher, another an octave lower, and it's a set of strings that are playing together. So it's multiple string players playing at the same time. This is cool. So you've got half the string section starts to play sustained, and then you've got the other half doing stylistic runs that run down. A lot of counterpoint happening there. It's essentially just sustained notes, but they're melodically moving around as well, and we'll see how that interacts with the vocal. Yeah, so the vocal's doing the sustained, the sort of syncopated contrast here. Starting to build. So big run up, octave run up with the strings for that climactic moment. It's like building in intensity, getting rising, rising, rising. And then what do you know? This is so cool. This is tops it off completely. So I'm pretty sure, just listen to the melody of this string section at the very top. Tremolo.
Tell me what's going on. I'll tell you what's going on. Ooh.
Back to more sustained.
Right on.
So what I was going to say before was that motive that they play at the very top. Now I don't know if I'm right here, but let's have a look at the sax. So that's what that's playing. Now let's listen to the string. Okay, I was incorrect there. I thought that the strings were playing the same, like a very similar motive to what the sax was playing. It's almost like a variation on the sax line. If you can see it, like it's playing very similar notes, very similar rhythm. So it's basically a variation melody on the sax secondary hook, if that makes sense. And the fact that these string sections are moving around melodically as a counter melody to the lead vocal as the lead vocal is singing, the way they've done this is like amazing. I don't know how they pulled it off, but they've managed to make the strings do their own thing but not overtake the lead vocal. So I think the main things that from the strings is really the stylistic attributes that they bring to the arrangement. So they've got sustained, they've got tremolos for like the intensity, they've got the stylistic runs downs, like the fall downs, like that. They've got the rise ups, like octave for those climactic moments, up like that. They've got the motives that are going around the vocal, like counter motives. So much stuff in these string sections that you can learn, and obviously it sounds a lot better with real strings playing it, and there's a lot of stuff that you can do with these real string players that it's a little bit harder to do with electronic strings, but a lot of stuff that you can learn to bring to your own arrangements, like how can you make it more stylistically humanized. That is pretty much everything that I have for what's going on. It was quite an in-depth analysis of all the instruments, but that's how the track was made and how it all sort of interconnects and the purpose of all the instruments within it. Because by doing this, like I'm getting the most out of this because I'm actually going as deep as possible as I can. So I'm actually starting to think like, you know, the producers of this track. Like I'm starting to think like them when I do my own arrangements. So if you want to learn how to do this, spots have opened for the Polymath Producer System, and it teaches you exactly how to get into the minds of the masters of the craft. So polymathproducer.com, check it out, and I'll see you in the next video.